What is up, guys? We are back in your video, and it is time for the Season 3 Ultimate Iron Fist Guide from beginner to advanced with the little tricks inserted in between to help you get started on Season 3. Whether you're new at Iron Fist or more experienced, this guide should have something for you. It's meant to cover a significant amount. So starting off, we're going to start off with each ability. So first will be Harmony Recovery. Harmony Recovery is going to be your pre-fight or a little bit more advanced mid-fight ability to give you a buffer while waiting for your other cooldowns to come off. So when you press your Harmony Recovery, you get an extra 100 overhealth that will start to decay pretty quickly. And because it decays, you need to be careful about how you use this in terms of before a fight or mid-fight. The most beginner or easiest way to use this is when you're going for your dive when a fight is about to start and you want to meditate before you jump into the fight to give you that extra health as a buffer. But there's a couple things you need to be careful of. Number one, the enemy can actually hear the sound of the meditate, and that's something that not a lot of people realize. And it's something that screwed me over on many dives before, is if you're deep in the back line and there's not a lot of sound in where the healers are, because it's relatively quiet, because there's a lot of action on the front line, I've meditated and it would literally alert the healers of where I am. So you need to be very careful of this. But if you know they won't hear you, or maybe you're in a lower rank lobby where they won't have that kind of awareness as much, then you should be fine to meditate, but it has to be your own judgment in the situation. So once you meditate, then you have the buffer, and you want to start your dive immediately to use that overhealth. That way, if someone shoots you, they hit the overhealth first, and it just gives you that extra health. Now, the second use for your meditate is a little bit more complicated, and I have Iron Fist Academy videos that go more in detail on this specifically. But what you want to do is mid-combat, let's say you dive someone, right? And then you block, and you get low and you retreat from the fight. You go, let's say you go up here. You go behind cover, right? Now you're at 10 seconds. You got 10 seconds left on your block, and you want to dive back in. You don't want to sit here and do nothing. But with 10 seconds left on your block, and if you dive, and assuming you're trying to reach a higher rank where you will get blown up really quickly, 10 seconds left on your block is just too much to go in and dive, unless you know it's like a very safe area where you can get guaranteed safe punches on someone, and you know you won't blow up. But more often than not, jumping into a fight with 10 seconds left on your block is very risky. You always want to try to meditate when you have that long duration on your block left. That way you can gain that buffer and you can jump straight back into the fight. That is the intended purpose of the meditate mid-fight, is it allows you to weave your meditate in to actually keep your uptime. Previously in Season 1.5, when they buffed the block, you wouldn't need to weave the meditate in because you would get it back so fast. Now we're back to the Season 0 and Season 1 playstyle, except we have the meditate as a buffer, so you could weave that in to keep your uptime up. So when you jump out of the fight and you're behind cover and you want to go back in, use your meditate that way you can gain that buffer and you can go back in despite the high cooldown on your block, because you know you'll most likely get it back before dying. Next, we are on to the kick. So the kick has three main functions. The first function will be executing a target using your basic combos. Now, your combos depends on the actual HP of the target, but on a basic 275 HP target, it'll be your full 5-hit combo plus your kick leads to an execute. A very powerful execute weapon that you want to use when you know you're going to land the kill. Because if you use it in their back line and you're not sure if you're going to land the kill, you're just being greedy, you risk your life, because that brings me to the second function of the kick, which is escaping. There are so many times where you dive the back line and you block, and maybe you get 400 overhealth, maybe you block, they don't shoot you, maybe you block late, maybe you block early, whatever. You block, either way, you're going to die, the whole team focuses on you. You need to get out fast. You don't have time to wall run up, which is a use of wall running. Sometimes you want to save your kick, and you want to wall run up and then get behind cover. But if you can't do that and you're dying very quickly, you need to use your kick to escape. So imagine if you use your kick to try to land the kill and you don't. It's kind of like a kamikaze. if you try to land the kill with your kick, you need to be very sure that you're going to land the kill, or at least above 90% certainty that you're going to land this kill. Because if you don't land the kill, you're going to be in a very bad situation. Which is also why when you're going for your dive, you want to keep in mind what your escape route might be. If you're going for your dive on the Luna here, as you're going for the dive, you want to think to yourself, if this doesn't work out and I use my kick, where am I going? You know, maybe you're like, okay, I'm dropping down here. But you need to think about this beforehand so you're not running around looking for somewhere to go and you end up getting caught. Because you don't want to die because you tried to get the kill. It's very punishing. So you need to always keep in mind potential escape routes. Now, the third use for the kick will be engaging a target. Now, you need to be very careful with this one because there are times where engaging a target with your kick will just be the worst decision in the world and will lead to your death. And then there are times where you don't have a choice but to engage with your kick. Usually, engaging with your kick is something that I do mid-brawl. Like, let's say you are brawling, right? You are brawling, you're fighting someone here. They're down 2, they're down 1, you're brawling, and you see the healer in the back, and you just landed a kill here, and you need to get to that healer fast. You need to get to that healer fast, right? You land the kill here, they're down 2, you know, you have health, you just get straight in there, and you start punching. You need to get over there very quickly. That's a situation where you might want to use your kick. Or there is a target that's taking an angle, and you're going for your dive, right? You're going for a dive. And it's a target like a Hela that's sitting right there. And she spots you. You know you're not going to make it there, but you have to get her off this height. It's an angle that she's taking where she's not in line of her healers. If she's in line with her healers and you don't have an easy escape, using your kick to get in will mean your death sentence. But this is, again, why you need to be very careful. Because there are some situations where you'll see that Hela there, and you know she's not in line with the healers. She's taking an off angle, but she looks at you. And you block mid-air, and then you go for your kick, and that closes the gap that allows you to start killing her very quickly. Because if you land a block mid-air and you have overhealth, and then you kick to her and you hit her with the kick, right, you will win this 1v1, assuming you block early. But this is, again, where you need to use your own judgment, right? If you go for the dive on the Hela, she spots you, she hits you first, you're down to 200 health, I wouldn't use the kick to engage, I would just retreat. Bite the ego, take your ego back, bite the bullet, and just retreat. But there are situations where you would want to use your kick. Or maybe you see your team already hitting someone, and you think they could be low enough to where the kick could execute. Again, it's mid-brawl. You're fighting a mag, you see a Bucky over there, and maybe your thing is attacking the Bucky. You could kick straight over to the Bucky and land the kill like this, because the Bucky's actually low. And this is mid-brawl, like when the teams are actually fighting. These are those are basically the 3 uses for your kick. Executing a target, using it to escape, using it to engage. Alright, so the next ability will be your parry. Now, this is the most important ability in your kit, and how you use it will make or break every single engagement you are in. But basically, your parry is your block everything and gain overhealth ability. This is basically how you frame and engage every single fight, is with your block, and everything is centered around how you time your block. And there are many guides on my channel that I give advice and very tailored tips on how to use your block. Too much to cover in one video, but I will try to cover as much as I can. But in general, your block is something that you want to use when you know you're about to take a lot of damage. And now a lot of people, they don't start using it until they're already taking the damage. But I try to tell people all the time that you need to be preemptive about it. Let's say you dive a target, right? You want to angle yourself to where you see who's going to shoot you, who's the peel target. A peel target means who's going to be peeling for the healers, aka who's going to try to get you off the healers and shoot you. You want to make sure you could see this. That way, when you dive a target or you're in a fight in general, you know where the damage towards you is going to be coming from. You can see the Bucky and the Punisher turn around, especially the Punisher with a shotgun. You want to see when he looks towards you. Good Punishers, when they see you do this, they hold their fire. And if you're diving a healer and a Punisher's right there, and they have their shotgun out and they're holding their bullets till your block is over, you got to get out ASAP. That is a terrible situation. His shotgun does a ridiculous amount of damage to you, especially if he headshots you. You want to make sure you preemptively block. You see the Punisher turn to you. You immediately stand still and block so he can't miss and he hits you, because normally they never ever expect you to actually block right away. They always hit you first, then see the block, then hold their fire and have trigger discipline, which is why it's so important, especially because when you use your actual block in this state right here, you see that yellow bar going across the screen? You have 30% damage reduction while that's up. You want to maximize the value of that. So if they turn to you and you block, and you go from 300 to 400 over health, you now have 400 health plus 30% damage reduction. That is the importance of blocking early, especially if you're about to engage in a 1v1. Let's say you see an isolated target, right? This is an isolated target. Let's say they're not in line with anyone. It's a Hella. The Hella looks up at you. You don't want to start the engage and then wait till she hits you twice and you're 200 health and then block. Maybe she doesn't even shoot you and now you have 200 health. You may lose this 1v1 unless she whiffs her shots, right? But imagine, right, you start the engagement. Let me just get my block back. You start the engagement. She sees you. The moment she turns up, you know she's going to shoot. They always do it. They're not going to hold their fire in case you block. They never do that. The moment she looks up, you block. Now you have 350 to 400 over health with your 30% damage reduction starting this engagement. You are a tank. You will not lose this 1v1. You will not. And that is the importance of blocking early and preemptively blocking damage. You jump into a fight where you know you're going to take damage. You want to get as much over health as you can. If you wait till you're too low, like let's say you wait till you're 100 health and then you block, you're going to go up to at most, if you're lucky, 275 health. You're not even at your basic HP again. It's not enough to really get aggressive, right? You want to make sure you preemptively block, because that will maximize your time in the fight and your chances of winning a 1v1 as well. Always remember, keep in mind where the damage is coming from. Are they looking at you? When are they going to shoot you? And when is that damage coming towards you, right? So if it's a mag and they just turn around, they look at you, you want to block, move towards them, make it easy for them to hit you, you know? So many times I will jump on the front line, right? Let's say this is a tank, right? It's on the front line, right? I will jump on the tank on the front line, and then I will land behind the tank, and I'll block, and I'll move back into the team like this. Just for a moment, it'll block the heals that are incoming. The healers that are trying to heal the tank, they will instead hit you. This is a very good little trick that not a lot of people do, right? Is that you always want to go behind the tank when you're going to use your block, and then you use your block. And the healers, they funnel their damage into you and their DPS or whatever. They all funnel damage into you instead of healing the tank. Now you have 500 over health or 475, and the tank didn't get healed, and you can pummel them really badly. Then you can, as you're pummeling, you can move around so you don't take too much damage. That's a great rotation to do. But that's it for the parry ability. I'm going to make more videos on my channel that go more in depth, but if you want to learn more about the parry ability, then check out my other videos. So the next ability we're going to go through is a little bit quicker, and it's your ultimate. Now, your ultimate is, it's not that great on its own, but it's very good when used. You have to use it really, really well to get value. And what I mean by that is if you can't just pop it like a Punisher and then shoot them from a distance and either scare the whole team off safely or eliminate everyone. You can't just do that. You need to actually be careful about how you use it, because you could completely change the flow of the fight if used properly. And as you go up the ranks, it's going to be very difficult to use your ult properly. But in general, you want to do everything you can to maximize the value of your ult. And there are multiple components to this. Number one, you want to make sure you are ulting either from the back line if it's the start of a neutral, or from the front line if a tank's already getting low and their healers don't have a lot of healing output. The biggest thing you want to watch out for is Loki runes. They will completely destroy your ult. It's so painful when you do so much effort to get a tank to 10% in your ult and Loki drops his runes. You need to make sure Loki has either dropped his runes or there's no Loki at all. Loki is a huge counter to an Iron Fist ult. It makes it very difficult. It'll nullify all the damage you just did, and you have to break the runes, which takes your time away, and then they can damage you. It's very difficult, especially on high ranks. So number one, if they have a Loki, runes have to be used already. Number two, you want to wait until you do not want to ult at the very start of a fight. You want to make sure the teams have engaged, because if you ult the backline and the teams haven't engaged and meshed together properly, then, and I am sometimes guilty of this, even on my rank. Sometimes I try to eliminate this as much as possible. I don't do it much anymore, but sometimes I will get a little bit too antsy based off how much, because maybe there'll be a little bit time left and it's overtime, whatever, and I'll ult a bit too early, and the whole team will just move backwards and peel, and you lose all value, right? Because the truth is, if you ult the backline and their whole team turns around and peels, that's great because you've distracted their whole team. Your team can run them down, right? But what if your team isn't close enough? What if your team is like right there? If your team's right there and you're ulting the backline over here, it's too much to expect them to all just stampede them really quickly. You need to make sure that your teams are brawling. Your tanks are actively engaged in a brawl to where you distracting the whole team will most likely lead to a kill. So once the conditions are there, right, your teams have meshed, you see an opportunity, you want to ult the backline. Two things you want to make sure you do. Number one, meditate, unless it's extremely urgent and you can't wait. But you always want to meditate first. Secondly, and this is something I see many high-rank Iron Fist still don't do and actually baffles me, is clicking your block before you ult. Because when you ult, you have this little window where you can't press anything right here, right? Where he does his animation. You could take damage in that time period. Now, ideally, you want to make sure you're behind cover before you do that, right? So if the backline's right here and they don't see you, you're coming from behind, you don't have to worry about it. You ult, you're not going to get shot in that period. But you also, with that yellow bar, you gain 30% damage reduction while it's up. You want to start your ult with that 30% damage reduction. It's just a way to min-max your actual ult and the value of it. Because if you use your block first, you actually get your block back off cooldown. It resets it. So when you go for your ult, right, you meditate, you're now 400 over health, you pop your thing, and then you ult, you get your block back, and you have your bar of 30% damage reduction. You can engage in your fight a little bit, you take some damage, then you block again. Now, the second thing you want to keep in mind is when the ult is over, you want to make sure you actually use your block before it ends, like right before it ends. Let's say there's 2 seconds left, and even if they might not be shooting you, and you might be like, I'm not going to take damage here, even if I use it. You still want to use it. You still want to use it because you're going to get your block back in 3 seconds. Because when your ult is up, your block is a 3-second cooldown. So during your ult, you want to be using your block like crazy, right? But what happens when it's about to end, even if you're behind the targets, they're full health, maybe you don't think you're going to take damage, but you want to get your block back in 3 seconds, not 15. You're like, I'm just going to use it. Now I have my 30% damage reduction, maybe some overhealth if some damage did fly at me. And now I have my block back already, right? Versus waiting until your ult's over and not using your block. It's just another way to gain a bunch of more value out of your ult. Now, there is one more thing I want to mention with your ult. And it's something that's, its usage depends on the fight. But normally when you ult, you just hold left click, you just deal damage, right? You hold left click, you just kill everything, right? But if you click it, like spam click it instead, you will actually knock back the target a little bit, which can be useful if you're trying to get a target off a ledge or something. So watch what happens. Okay, shoot, Luna was too low health. Watch what happens when you click. See right there, that knockback. That knockback right here. It happens at the end of every little flurry combo, and it could be useful. That's when you click, not hold. It could be useful if you're trying to knock a target off a ledge or get them isolated away from their healers. Just something to keep in mind. So now we're going to get on to a couple little tricks I want to add in here. Number one, I want to talk about your wall running. And I want to mention that you always want to use high ground. If you watch my Iron Fist gameplay a lot, you'll notice I'm almost perma high ground. I'm almost always up here using wall running wherever I can. Very rarely am I taking a position on a low ground. And the reason why I believe this is so important is it allows you to actually see everything that's going on and pick an ideal target or peel. So if you're all the way in the high ground, you get to see everything. You can see the flanking Psylocke. You could see the healer that's a little too far back. You could see, are your teams meshed? Is your tanks fighting? You could see all these things. Maybe you see your own Psylocke about to dive their Luna, and you're like, okay, let's dive together. You could see all these different things and then choose your target. Not to mention, you also get the perfect drop, because if they don't see you, now you need to be careful if they have like a Hela or an Ultron or some kind of target that may spot you on the high ground. Because if they do spot you on the high ground, it can ruin a lot of value, because if they spot you and then you go for your dive and they catch you mid-air, it's very, very bad. So you need to be really careful and actually be like a ninja. You gotta be hidden. You gotta be hidden, right? Sometimes I'll take a position, right, and I'll use my third person to look through the corner like this. I'm looking at the staircase right now, right? I'm watching them move forward. I'm waiting until the team moves forward more, so then I can go for the backline without them noticing. You need to make sure that whatever the enemy team has, they do not see you when you go for your dive, because then you can go unannounced. No one sees you. You go for the backline, and you get more value, right? Because then you can aim towards the front line when you dive behind the healer and aim towards the front line, so you can see who turns around, when they're going to shoot you. Then you can block. And then you have so much space to move around. You're so far in the back. It's just the best possible case scenario. And even mid-fight, when you want to escape sometimes, I always use my wall running to get behind corners like this and then pop your meditate. And then use the wall running again to get straight back in. I'm going to make another Iron Fist Academy video, which is a guide series on my channel. I'm going to make another video about specifically how to use the high ground properly. But in general, always use high ground. Now, the next tip I want to talk about is something that a lot of people get confused on with Iron Fist, and it's to brawl or to dive. Now, my best answer for this, and it's honestly pretty simple, it answers itself in the sense that you want to dive in the neutral and brawl when the team is actually brawling, right? Whenever you're at first engaging a fight, you always want to dive. You always want to come in by surprise and dive the healers. Very, very rarely, I still do, but very rarely do I go into a neutral where the teams have just begun the engagement and I go to the front line right away and start punching tanks, and I try to make something happen there. Because there's not really much you could do in that situation. You wouldn't really want to brawl starting a neutral, because the healers will just heal the damage. Now, again, sometimes you will. You might have a Groot. If you have a Groot, then you might want to do this, because your Groot can wall off the tank, and then you can kill them. Or you might have a very heavy frontline damage comp, like an infinite ammo Punisher, where you know if you punch that tank on the front line with your Punisher, it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage. They might not be able to heal through it. You could have a tank shredding comp, right? Or you could have a Wolverine on your team, and you're waiting for him to land a grab. So there are situations where you want to go for the tanks. But in general, most comps, you don't. Most comps, you want to dive the back line every single fight to start. You want to dive the back line. Or not even the back line, an isolated squishy that's on the side, which you can see because you're on the high ground. You're on the high ground. You could see that isolated target. So you go down and you go for the back line. Or you go for that isolated Psylocke on the side. Peel for your team. Or the Panther. Or the Magic. Or the Spider-Man. Or the Rocket that's really far back trying to heal bot. You catch him out there. You know? And then you take some damage, and then you have two options, right? You have two options. You either rotate to behind cover. So here's the two options. Once you've dived the back line, you either kick back to the front line, then start punching tanks until you get low, and then go to the side, and you meditate. And then you take the high ground again, and then with that high ground, you go back to the back line and repeat that cycle. The second option is once you dive the back line, you block, you get low. You don't kick back to the front line. You kick to cover. You kick somewhere behind cover that's close to the back line, right, where they won't see you. You meditate, and you go straight back on the back line. Those are your two options, and there's no answer really as to which one you should be doing. It depends on the fight and your actual comp and the game you're in itself. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is very important on Iron Fist, extremely important on Iron Fist, and it's your bans. Number one most important ban, I'm going to have to say, is Ultron. And the reason why is Ultron isn't just Ultron. He enables a flying comp. He's the flying comp enabler. If he is a good Ultron, right, and he puts his healing orb on the back line, their team does, the healers don't even have to look at you. You can't out damage his heal bot. So you'll never land a pick, and the Ultron doesn't even have to look at you or the team. They could just ignore you because your damage won't out heal the healing bot. He can just put the healing bot, and that will completely nullify you. It is a really hard counter. Now, you can still win against Ultron comps, because the Ultrons don't always, I noticed, they don't always put that heal bot on their healers. Or maybe you just don't dive the healers. There's many options. You can win, but it's such a high value ban that you just have to ban it. Because not only is it Ultron, he comes with a healer he comes with flyers. If you take Ultron, there might be a Human Torch, there might be an Iron Man, there might be a Storm. It's not worth banning individual flyers. You just want to ban the Ultron. As the highest value ban on Iron Fist is most likely going to be an Ultron. Also, his ability to spot you on the high ground. He usually flies up high, and he has a very strong beam. He could destroy some of your dives as well. He's a very difficult to face. Now, this is after Ultron. There's many different bans that are high value. That it's hard to say which one. Like it's going to be kind of down to personal preference and also your own team comp, what works well for your team. Wolverine, because the problem is Season 3, Wolverine is going to be a permaban. He is a permaban. Because he's a permaban, generally, you might just barely get Ultron itself. Your team's going to want to ban something, Ultron, and then Wolverine. Wolverine's going to be a permaban. You have to ban Wolverine for your tanks. Or Phoenix, because, like, Phoenix, Wolverine, it's a nasty, nasty combo. It's nasty. You cannot let this be. You will not be able to peel well enough against this. Unless you're running a zero tank comp, it's just not going to work. So, assuming your team doesn't want to ban Ultron and you get another ban slot, Punisher is a solid ban. He is really good at peeling your dives with his shotgun, and he's hard to kill with his 300 HP. Loki's also a great ban because of his lamps. They counter a lot of the damage you output. It's very difficult. You land a dive, you're going to kill someone, he lamps. Loki's a strong ban. I've banned Luna personally, but your team might not like that. But in general, your best bans are going to be Ultron, Wolverine, because again, you can't peel well against the Wolverine. The problem with Iron Fist is there's too many bans that are useful, because Hela is a great ban for Iron Fist as well. So you got Punisher, you got Loki, you got Hela, you got Wolverine, you got Ultron. There's more after that, the Hawkeye, but only if you know they have a Hawkeye player, because there's not many Hawkeyes right now. Those are the highest value bans, in my opinion. You could go for a Namor or a Hulk ban, but again, I don't see that being, like, Ultron is just a much higher value. And if your team isn't banning Wolverine for whatever reason, then you could go for a Hulk or a Namor ban. But that's kind of it with the bans, guys. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on the bell for notifications so you can see when my next video is. As well as check out my Iron Fist Academy guide series. I do have some more in-detail guides on specific topics. And check out my link in the description below. I have my Twitch. Go follow there. I stream on Twitch. And my Discord. And check out channel memberships if you want to support me. That would be great. And thank you to all my channel members and my Twitch subs. You guys mean the world to me. It allows me to keep making content. More guides coming. The next Iron Fist Academy video will be focused on the ideal Iron Fist rotation. I'm going to go through that. It'll be a little short video. And then the one after that will probably be brawling versus dive, going into deep detail. But anyways, guys, as always, take care.